love the story that the little first grader asked her dad, said, how come you keep bringing home work every night? The dad said, well, because I can't get it all done at work. And the first grader said, well, how come they don't just put you in a slower group? So we've been in a study called Win the Day, and it's been a lot of fun. Great feedback from this, and some of the things that we've talked about are, I love the titles. We've been talking about flipping the script. We've been talking about kissing the wave, eating the frog. We've talked about, last week we talked about flying the kite, and in that one, just great response from that. And what we talked about was saying that each day, we can make each day a masterpiece. Each day we can live fully alive. Each day we can make a difference, that we make every single day a masterpiece. And we took a look at one verse, which was from Colossians 3:23, one of my favorite verses. And it says this: whatever your hands find to do, work at it with all your heart. It was working for the Lord and not for men, because you know you're going to receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Jesus Christ you are serving. And I really felt compelled to do two messages on Fly the Kite, another just kind of going along with that. And maybe it's because we see so little of a full-hearted commitment to anything, full-hearted effort to anything. I think it just seems like that half-heartedness is epidemic in our nation right now. And I think one of the biggest ways you can find that, where we see that, is in the workplace. We have a whole lot of CEOs. We have a whole lot of people who run their business and managers in our church. And so many of them have said, man, we can't get anybody to work anymore. It's so difficult to find people that work in the job thing anymore. And you can't really blame them, because if you can get paid as much or more not to work as you do to work, what's the incentive? And what kind of society are we building? And when we're paying people not to do things, it goes straight against the biblical principle that's found in 2 Thessalonians that says, if a person will not work, they will not eat. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that would love to work and they can't work for whatever reasons, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about people that, again, lack of incentive, lack of heart. Another thing is that even if they do work, we don't see as much effort either. It just seems like a half-hearted effort a lot of people that are out there. Here's some examples of that. Go ahead and throw that up there. Or not. There we go. All right, tell that first one again. I love that one. There he goes. Look at this. Instead of getting rid of some of the stuff, no, just paint around it. Instead of painting the curb, or get the grass as well. Go ahead with the next one. And look at this. Stuff that baby as absolutely as full so it bends it. Go ahead, one more. How about that? Red potatoes. Does that look like red potatoes to you? A couple more. Get two of them. All you have to do is move two of those bad boys, and you do the whole lot. And I love this one. Do not stack to the brim, right? So, and something that we see a lot of times, that it seems like in this generation that we live in, it seems like people are wanting to get the most for the least amount of effort. And this is something that I remember in my lifetime. This is destroying the workplace, I think, in America. I remember in my lifetime when the phrase "made in Japan" was a joke. We literally made jokes out of that. And now it's the exact opposite, isn't it? It shows the highest quality, the greatest commitment to excellence. When you see that with electronics, or we see that with cars or anything. And there was a time in my lifetime when it had the words "made in the USA." That was the highest pinnacle of quality. And now we have something from Time magazine that says, called "America the Inefficient," or "Why Nothing Seems to Work in the U.S. Anymore." There's a lady by the name of Susie Weiss, and she is working right now with people who are going into the job situation for the very first time. And she said it's amazing to her, and she quotes a statistic that says 75% of people going into the work for the first time believe that they should have raises and believe that they should have promotions for just simply showing up. Andrew Carnegie said this. He said, the average person puts only 25% of his or her energy and the ability into his or her work. The world takes off its hat to those who put in more than 50% of their capacity, and it stands on its head for those few and far between souls who devote 100%. And not only is this hurting our country, I believe, but it's also sucking the lives out of people that live by this. Because if you're not giving it your best, you're never going to be satisfied with what you're doing, right? And in fact, for every moment, we're only living half-heartedly. We're only living half a life, right? And we're only living partially if we're not giving it our best, whatever that is that we're doing. You know, Adam, when God created Adam, he gave him a task. He put him in the garden and said, your job is to take care of the garden. And this is very important. That was before the fall. In other words, work wasn't a punishment. Work was something that we were created to do. We were created to create. We were created to accomplish. We were created to do, right? And if we don't do those things, part of us dies. I think that's why some of the time we're seeing so many depressed people around right now. A part of us dies, and in fact, we literally die sometimes. Because if you take a look at men, when they retire, if you don't give them something to do, if they don't find something else to use their time, a lot of times they will kick the bucket long before they should, because inside of them they were created to do and accomplish. And you know, sometimes, I don't know about you, but as I look back in my life, the things that I look at my life when I've been fulfilled the most, when I've been satisfied the most, are sometimes when I've given it the hardest, right? When I've given it absolutely my best. And this is true in sports. When I look back at that, it was the times, man, you lay it down on the field or you lay it down on the court. The times when in work and job situations, in school, when I did my best and got, you know, and could look at that and say, man, I gave this my best. In ministry and anything, there's just something about it that you're satisfied. And it seems sometimes the harder it is, the more satisfied you are for fulfilling it, right? Somebody asked me, what's some of my favorite times in ministry? And I've looked back, and most of those times were some of the hardest things I've ever done, either on the mission field or I remember one time, my mind went to this one, where I was a youth speaker at big conferences, and there was one that I was doing in Gatlinburg. And what they would do is at 7 o'clock, they filled the conference center. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of youth there. And then after the band did and after I preached and the things, then they emptied the Coliseum, and then they filled the Coliseum again with 10,000, 20,000 more people. Okay, so I had to preach again, got home, got back at about 1 o'clock in the morning, had to get up and start the whole thing on Saturday. So I preached a different sermon twice on Saturday morning. Then I did that same thing on Saturday night. Then I did that same thing on Sunday morning. I preached 8 times, 4 different messages in 40 hours, and I did that for 2 straight weekends, and I couldn't tell you my name by the end of that. But I remember going at the end of that, the whole thing, and the Coliseum was empty, and just sitting back there and going, man, there's very few times I've ever felt more satisfied in my life, even though I was bone tired. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know that feeling? Because I guarantee you something, you have never slapped high fives with anybody when you gave it a half an effort or when they gave it a half an effort. It's when you're doing the best you can and they're doing the best and you gave it all on the field, that's when you feel satisfied in life. And there are times when we're not supposed to do anything, right? I mean, God did not create us to do. There's times every day we need times where we relax, where we kick back, where we take it easy, where we recreate, right? And the same thing is true throughout the week. God has said, you will not do. You will do, rest. Right? One day you will not work. In fact, he gave it as one of the 10 commandments, not to do something all the time. And so God gave us those things to, but also, I don't know about you, but the times when I take the vacation, the times I take the break after the end of the day, the times I take a break on my Sabbath, which is Friday, it's after I've done something that I feel most fulfilled and I can relax and enjoy that the most. Margaret Thatcher said it like this. She said, look at a day when you were supremely satisfied at the end. It's not a day when you lounge around doing nothing. It's a day when you've had everything to do and you've done it. You know, I want to take a look at a young lady in the Bible. Her name is Rebekah. My oldest daughter is named after her. I love this lady, and she gives us a principle that will change our life if we live by this principle. If we live this principle out, I guarantee you it will change our life. The background is this, that Abraham and Sarah had a child, Isaac, in their old age, and they just got older. So Abraham's now ancient, and Sarah is now dead, but they have a son of Mary marrying age, and it is his responsibility to find a wife for him. Now, when I was a teenager and thinking about my parents finding a wife for me, I thought that was the stupidest thing ever. But as the dad of 3 daughters when they were growing up, I thought this was genius, right? And I'm kidding you. I would never want that responsibility. But think of that. So Abraham was so old, he couldn't go and do this. So he had his servant. He told his servant to go to this particular area and look for a wife for Isaac. So we got 10 camels loaded down with really cool stuff, headed out, went to that place. And when the ladies came out to get water, he had his camels lay down. Then he prayed this prayer and said this: God, please give me success today. May it be that when I say to a girl, please let down your jar that I may have a drink, and she says, drink, and I'll water your camels too. Let her be the one that you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. He prayed this simple prayer, and look at the immediate responses. Before he had finished praying, I love it when God answers our prayers. Before we even finished praying, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever lain with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again. The servant hurried to meet her and said, please give me a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said, and quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave him a drink. After she had given him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels too until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the well to draw more water, and drew enough for all the camels. And I'm going to go back to the one part where it says, I will draw also for your camels. We may not think of that's a big deal, but think about it. Camels drank between 20 and 30 gallons of water at a time. How many camels were there? 10. How many gallons does that mean? 200 to 300 gallons of water. Now remember, she was not getting this from a spigot, a hose just putting out there like this. Every gallon, she had to go and get a bucket, go down the well, bring it up, and put it back there. This was a very big deal. And this is the Rebekah principle. Here it is, that you do more than is required, that you go the second mile. And if we do that, I'm telling you, it'll transform our life, it'll transform our businesses, it'll transform our families, it'll transform everything if we live with that kind of attitude. Now, call me old-fashioned, but I really believe that Christians should be the best employees that are out there, that are in the whole job market. I really do. I believe that. Because of this, we're not working for the company. We're not working for the boss primarily or anything like that. We are working for God, right? We just read that. Whatever our hands find to do, we do it for God, unto God. We saw last week we do it for the glory of God. So we should be the best. Also, that's our mission field. Wherever God places us at the moment is our mission field. And that means people are watching how we do things. And if we're doing them in an honest way and the best, it's a great witness. We are God's ambassadors, the Bible tells us, out in the mission field of wherever God places us. I remember one time I went to a Christian university for 3 out of my 4 years of undergraduate work, and I remember going out into the job market, and somebody said this, they said, we always try to find people from your university. And I said, why is that? And they said, because they're always hardworking, they're honest, they're dependable. And I thought that should be said about every single one of us as believers. We should be showing that kind of example to a world. But also this, that I believe students, that Christians should be the best students there are as well. Not necessarily the ones that get the highest grades, because some of that has to do with God-given ability. But this, that it should be something that we give it our best effort, again, because again, we're doing this, whatever our hands find to do, we're doing it with all of our heart. I don't know if you know this, but C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia and other books, one of the big things that drew him to Christianity in the first place, he was a professor at Oxford University, and he noticed that every year his best students, the ones that tried the hardest, the ones that were most dependable, were Christians. And he thought, what do they have that the other people don't? What is it about these Christians that's drawing me to this, that's making them be the best that they have there? And again, I think that should be our attitude no matter where God places us. Listen to what the words of Jesus from the Sermon on the Mount. He said, you have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If somebody strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other as well. And if someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons and daughters of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love only those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your brothers and sisters, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. And Jesus is saying something here. He's saying, unless you go beyond what is asked or forced or required, you're no different than unbelievers in how they act. And he said, and he gave 4 examples. He said, turning the other cheek, the coat gave that example, loving those who don't love you, and walking the second mile. What is that talking about, walking the second mile? When Israel in those days was occupied by Rome, and that meant anything that Rome said you had to do, you had to do, which included that a Roman soldier could look at you and touch you with the edge of his spear and say, you need to carry this for me. So whatever it is you had required, you could not talk back. You had to carry that, whatever that was, for 1 mile. You did not have to carry it 2 miles, but you had to carry it 1 mile. And Jesus is saying, go the extra mile. In fact, he said this, and I think what Jesus is saying this, there are things that we have to do in our job, right? There's requirements that we have to do for our job. There's requirements that we have to do in school. There are things that we have to do around the house. These are things that are required of us. And Jesus, I believe, is saying this, that not only that there, as an employee or a husband or a wife or a child or whatever it is, there's things you need to go the first mile. But he said, as my follower, I want you to go the second mile too. I want you to go over and above what is expected. See, the Pharisees, man, they would have loved a time clock, right? They would have just loved to go exactly the 5 o'clock, boom, they are out of there. And they would have also loved, the phrase, that's not in my job description. And God's saying, no, you know what we do? We go the extra mile in whatever we are around the house or anything. What does Rebekah teach us? I think the first thing is 3 of the most powerful words in our language can be, and then some, and then some. Show me a success at anything. Show me a success in athletics. Show me a success in musicians or anything like that, music, and I will show you somebody who went and then some, right? And think about this. Think of the people that stick out to you that you've met and seen even this week. Maybe it was a salesperson. Maybe it was a waitress. Maybe it was somebody at your job, whatever it is. I guarantee the reason they stood out to you in a good way is because they did and then some. Maybe you have a teacher that you loved growing up, and the reason you loved them is because they did and then some, right? I mean, you show me somebody, a thriving business, I'll show you some people who are doing and then some. You show me a thriving church, and I'll show you people who are doing and then some. I love that about our staff. I love that about our leadership and people who are serving, is every single one of them, man, they are doing and then some. And how about this one? How about our family? Can you imagine in our families? Can you imagine in our marriages if we turned the other cheeks? If we went the extra mile? If we did and then some, then I think divorces would end overnight if we just went that it's not about us. It's saying, how can I serve? Because, Jesus did this incredible thing of taking off his garments and washing his disciples' feet. He didn't need to do that, but he did that. He went the extra mile because that's who he was. And imagine this. If we lived by these creeds, I will do more than belong. I will participate. I will do more than care. I will help. I will do more than believe in something. I will practice. I will do more than dream about something. I will work to make it happen. I will do more than teach. I will inspire. I will do more than earn. I will enrich. I will do more than give. I will serve. I will do more than live. I will grow. I will be more than a friend. I will be a brother or a sister. And something else Don't despise the small jobs, the small things. Because, there's the old saying, there are no small jobs, there's just small people. Here's Rebekah, and she was not doing a glamorous job at all, right? I mean, I would think that just getting water is not a glamorous job, but it's a very important job because otherwise her family does not have water. The animals do not have water. Very important, very non-glamorous. The lady who, in our church, who transformed, was a key player in transforming Kannapolis from a broken down mill town into the research development center. I was talking to her one time and she said, "Do you know what my first job was here at the mill?" And I said, "No." She said, I would empty spittoons. And I thought, that's about as low as you can get, isn't it? And she just did not despise the smaller jobs. And because of that, I think one reason God has raised her to something much greater. Our faithfulness in the little things indicate what our faithfulness will be in the big things, won't they? Jesus says this. He says, "Whoever can be trusted with little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much." And I was wondering how to show this. And I thought maybe there's two people that are working their way through college. And one is flipping burgers at a place and the other is waiting at a place. And you have this person just half-heartedly doing the job, always does the less amount that is possible. And this person is every time, it seems like every person out there doing the best that she possibly can. I don't know about you, but if this person becomes an engineer or an architect or something, I'm going to be afraid to be part of whatever they build, right? Because what you do, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do the little things is how you do the big things. And this lady, because she's working so hard and serving people so well in the little things like this, man, I know if she becomes a nurse, she's going to be amazing at that. Because how you do the little things is how you do the big things. How you do anything is how you will do everything, according to Jesus. And if you aren't happy where you are, you won't be happy where you're going. If you're not happy with say you're climbing the corporate ladder, if you're not happy on the 35th rung, you're not going to be happy on the 20th rung or the 5th rung or the 1st rung or anything like that. There's a lady in our church, a young lady now, that she grew up in my first church. She was a little baby, literally, and now she's a young lady with kids. And I started out as a small country church, and I pray that she would be able to say that I have served with the passion in that church and ministered in the passion of that church. There was a small church to start out with that I would with here. Because again, how we do anything is how we'll do everything. If you're not happy where you are, you're not going to be happy where you're going. And I love this one. Don't miss this. Happiness has very little to do with our position. It has everything to do with our disposition. I know I've read this before. It's one of my favorite stories ever. Tim Timmons shares an unforgettable encounter that he had with a toll booth operator. If you've ever gone through a toll booth, you know that your relationship to the person in the booth is not the most intimate you've ever had. It's one of life's frequent non-encounters. You hand over some money, you might get some change, you drive off. I've been through every one of the 17 toll booths on the Oakland-San Francisco Bay Bridge on thousands of occasions and never had an exchange worth remembering with anybody. Late one morning, however, headed for lunch in San Francisco, I drove towards one of the booths. I heard loud music. It sounded like a party or a Michael Jackson concert. I looked around, no other cars with their windows open, no sound trucks. I looked at the toll booth. Inside it, the man was dancing. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm having a party," he said. "What about the rest of these people?" I looked over at the other booths. Nothing moving there. "They're not invited." I had a dozen other questions for him, but somebody in a big hurry to get somewhere started punching his horn behind me, and I drove off. But I made a note to myself, find this guy again. Something in his eye says there's magic in his toll booth. Months later, I did find him again, still with this loud music, still having a party. Again, I asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I remember you from last time. I'm still dancing. I'm still having the same party." I said, "Look, what about the rest of these people?" He said, "Stop. What do those look like to you?" He pointed down at the row of toll booths. "They look like toll booths," I said. "No imagination." "Okay, I give up. What do they look like to you?" He said, "Vertical coffins." "What are you talking about?" "I can prove it. At 8:30 every morning, live people get in, then they die for 8 hours. At 4:30, like Lazarus from the dead, they reemerge and go home. For 8 hours, their brains are on hold, dead on the job, going through the motions. I was amazed. This guy had developed a philosophy, a mythology about his job. I couldn't help asking the next question. Why is it different for you? You're having a good time. He looked at me. I knew you were going to ask that. So I'm going to be a dancer someday. He pointed to the administration business. My bosses are in there, and they're paying for my training. 16 people dead on the job, and the 17th, in precisely the same environment, figures out a way to live. That man was having a party where you and I probably wouldn't last 3 days. He and I had lunch later, and he said, I don't understand why anybody would think my job is boring. I have a corner office, glass on all sides. I can see the Golden Gate, San Francisco, the Berkeley Hills. Half of the Western world comes here on vacation, and I just stroll in every day and practice dancing. And I guess every single one of us, every day, we have a choice of going to vertical coffins or dancing in a toll booth. The Bible says this in Deuteronomy. This day, I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life so that you and your children can live. Something else is don't live just for big moments. There's people that say, once I get out here and do this one thing, this mythical thing that's out there that may or may not come, then I'll be alive, then I'll live. And no, we won't. If we're not living now, we won't do there, because here's the thing, that 99.9% of life consists of little moments. And if we do the little moments right, then the big moments will come. And Elizabeth didn't even know that she was, Rebekah did not even know that she was this was her big moment. She was just so faithful in doing the little moments all the time that when the big moment came, she just went right into it with no problem. Another thing is you can't walk the second mile until we've walked the first mile. The reason I'll water your camels meant something is first she said, I'll make sure that you get water first as well. And sometimes people are wanting second mile blessings without first mile effort. Another thing is bloom where you're planted. And right now, you may be in a toll booth, so to speak. You may be in a situation that may not be the best, whatever that is. And again, we can either bloom where we're planted, or it can be miserable wherever we are. It's what we do with it that makes all the difference in the world. Another thing is extra blessing comes from extra effort. Going on with the story. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took out a gold nose ring weighing 1/5 of an ounce, and 2 gold bracelets weighing what would be 40 ounces of gold. That adds up to $73,000 as of about 2 days ago. She was given jewelry. She found a husband, and she would be the mother of the 12 patriarchs and the great-great-great-great-great-grandmother of Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not saying if you give it an extra effort that you're going to have some serious, awesome nose bling, or you're not going to. I'm not saying that you're going to get a husband immediately or anything like that. Or I'm not saying that you're going to birth a patriarch. What I am saying is God has a way of blessing those who go the second mile, who go the extra effort. In fact, remember our verse. Whatever your hands find to do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not for men. And here's the reason. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's in it for us, because you know that you're going to receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. In other words, God's going to have a way of blessing you. It may not happen on this earth. It's going to happen somewhere, because you know why? God is faithful and God is a rewarder. And Rebekah didn't know that. Rebekah did not do this for the reward. She did it because she's a second mile person, and as a result, she was given some extra things. And also, I love this. Our loved ones also will be covered with blessing. Then the servant brought out gold and silver jewelry and articles of clothing and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. And I don't know about you, but what the heck did they do? They didn't jack. They just stood there. But you know what was beautiful? Is because they were spending time with her, they were associated to the second mile person, they got the overflow of the blessing as well. You and I know if you've ever been around somebody that may be a drug addict or something in your family or an alcoholic or something, that overflow can make life miserable, can it? But somebody living for God, somebody going the extra mile, somebody doing that, the blessing of their life can also overflow into our life. And the blessing of our life as we're seeking God can flow over into the lives of other people. And so the big thing is whether you realize it or not, our actions and our attitudes are making a difference. Our life, they're determining our future. Our life is heading in that direction, whatever that is. So we're called to perform whatever we are at the moment with excellence, because someone is watching. It may be somebody else, but we know it's God, and God's going, I love it. When you look in the Bible, time after time after time, God saw somebody that went the extra mile. They gave more. They served more. They did something over and above, and I can't think of one time in the Bible they had more faith. They prayed harder. They did something, and Jesus every time is going, I see that. I see that extra effort. I see that, and I can't think of one time where he didn't reward somebody for that extra effort as well. So if we do this, if we go the extra mile, here's some of the things that are going to happen. We're going to be far more fully alive, right? We're going to be a blessing, and the blessing is going to pour into the lives of other people, and we're going to be a witness to this world. So what we're called to do, we can either be in this world, we can either live in a toll booth, and we can be upright caskets, or we can dance in that toll booth, and the choice is ours. Amen.